Twin Bill, where you can get your fill of hosts Jason and Marcus talking about movies and stuff. You know you never can get enough. A twin is two people who are related. Twin Bill. This season is Razzie Mania. Hello, and welcome to Twin Bill, the podcast where twins talk about bills. Electric bill. What's up with that?
Ducks got him, dollars got him. What the hell's a bill?
What was that from?
I don't know. Just being
Okay.
stupid.
All right. Marcus, how was your week? Did you see anything worthwhile? I guess it's still Oscar season, and there's the hockey game on Sunday, yesterday.
Yeah, I was actually watching early in the morning watching my English soccer team, Wolverhampton, lose. But while that was happening at the same time, US was playing Canada early in the morning on Sunday, so that was fun. Movie wise, I haven't finished it yet, but I started it's not that long, so it won't take me that long. Uh Blue Moon is available on Netflix.
It's a new film.
Yeah, it's nominated for Best Actor for Ethan Hawke and Best Original Screenplay. Linklater made two films in 2025.
Oh, geez.
This is a biopic about Lorenz Hart.
So he did a movie about Breathless and a movie about Lorenz Hart.
Yep, I yeah, I don't. It is weird that they're so
Both
similar
old.
release dates and everything.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the movie I watched. It is linked to the show and to the shirt I'm wearing just by chance because we talked about Creepshow and Creepshow 2, which are both, at least on the positive side, pretty good. I finally got around to watching Creepshow 3, which has no connection to George Romero or Stephen King. Some cheap company bought the rights to the name and made a movie, and it was really bad. The effects work was gross to the level of being visually repugnant. A lot of visceral bodies being torn open and stuff. And the I mean, it's almost worth talking about because if I had to explain the stories, they're all really short and they're all like confusing and just excuses to show blood and guts and stuff. But
I
yeah,
did see that they tried to cram. I guess they did. They five stories in a little
yep.
movie.
And they didn't. The frame narrative was really weak. It was like a cartoon with no dialogue of a guy going to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller tells the stories. So it made big nosed, poorly drawn cartoon and Creepshow 2 like freaking Steven Spielberg.
Figure, well, at least number two had Stephen King and Romero involved.
Yeah, but yeah, very yeah. As we discussed in the archives. So yeah, that couple covers this week for us. Let's talk about the third thing to talk about because it's called Saturn 3 for some reason. How about it? Is there a reason it's called Saturn 3? Like there's two Saturns otherwise or something? Or
Okay, maybe it was in the dialogue. I missed it. Maybe each of these little outposts has a number. Or this is the third one.
I mean, that must be what it is, but there was no plot reason why it had to be Saturn 3 other than it sounds cool for a science fiction film, I guess. But,
At the beginning, there's a loudspeaker explaining where the ship is going. Um,
yeah.
you might have said Saturn 3 at that point, but I missed it.
Well, yeah, we'll get into the plot, but yeah, well, yeah, because there's a bunch of stations and the space station or whatever you call it has to check in on them. All right, well, let's talk about like we usually do, the IMDb side first. Uh, this is the most troubled production in terms of interpersonal arguing that we've covered on this show so far. I think.
Or, as Vince McMahon likes to call it, beef.
Yeah, we're not too much musculature. Although Kirk Douglas and the giant robot are both pretty buff. So
Look at the musculature on that conflict, though.
if that robot could do a leg drop, Vince McMahon would have gave him $10 million.
This is a pretty buff robot I was looking into.
He's humongous. All right. Okay, I want to talk about this because uh, this movie is directed by Academy Award-winning director Stanley Donen, and I want a little exercise because you can actually track how his career like gradually declined into making Saturn 3. So we both like Singing in the Rain. That was 1952. Uh, you haven't seen Charade. That was a very good movie, but that felt like that was the end of his career almost because that was 63. And then things quickly fell off a cliff. You ever see Bedazzled? The old one?
The British one?
I guess it's British. I mean, the Dudley Moore one.
Yeah, it's much more British than the Brandon Fraser one.
I gotta be racial about it. It's got Dudley Moore in it. Dudley Moore is comedy to all races. But yeah, so you didn't see it then.
I think you when we were kids, you watched the whole thing, and I watched the second half of it with you or something.
Okay, so you saw part of it. But anyway, that was 67. That movie's not great, so it's already dipping. And then he did a lot of movies that were not very popular, that were kind of like still like Singing in the Rain. Were you aware there was ever a big budget musical version of Antoine Saint-Exupéry's Little Prince?
No, I'm not familiar with any adaptation. Yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with any adaptations of Little Prince.
They got music and lyrics or whatever by was it Jay Lerner? Is that his first name? And they came out in '74, and he had movies even more obscure than that. And this was it. And then Saturn 3, which no one liked. Spoiler alert. And then he only did one big movie after that came out, which was Blame It on Rio in 1984, which is kind of veering into like sex comedy.
Isn't it kind of about pedophilia?
I mean, it's not an issue film about pedophilia. It's about pedophilia. It's a comedy. This is not a Blood I Blame It on Rio podcast, so I don't know, but I never heard that before.
Because the Demi Moore's a teenager, and isn't he trying to sleep with her or something?
Yeah, but it's the '80s. Cocaine. It's not. It wasn't played. It wasn't played serious like Jeffrey Epstein.
Lolita.
Yeah. So that was all to say. Stanley Donen. You see the name and you're like, oh, he's famous and does good movies, and you can see why he got to Saturn 3. And there you go. The movie's written by Martin Amis. I know nothing about his works, but he's very famous postmodern British novelist. And apparently, talking about the backstage problems, apparently his script was almost entirely rewritten. He just got like legally got a credit, but he's not attached to the script as in the final version.
That makes sense because the final thing doesn't feel like something a novelist would write.
Yeah, there was a quote. It was like trying to apply art to a movie called The Vikings. It was like what hiring a novelist to write. It kind of reminded me of Barton Fink a little bit, like the artsy theater director being hired to write a wrestling movie.
Yeah.
So it's like it's Barton Fink, but in real life. And story credit for John Barry. This is so John Barry won an Oscar for doing the art direction on Star Wars, the New Hope, whatever.
Hmm.
And he was hired to be the director of the movie, but apparently Martin Amis hated working with him on the screenplay, and Kirk Douglas hated working with him as an actor so much he pulled rank as a producer and fired him. And then John Barry went to work on The Empire Strikes Back and died of meningitis in like 1980. That's
Yeah. And Kirk Douglas like, yeah, I want Singing in the Rain guy to direct this sci-fi movie.
They were probably friends, even if it wasn't professionally lucrative for either of them, as it turned out. But did you notice, Marcus, talking about the producer of this movie, uh, that sorry, it said. Did you notice who the producer of this movie was when you were watching the movie? His name was the first thing on the screen.
I think Stanley Donen gets credited double duty here for producer and director, no?
Yes, but Stanley Donen is producer, but also the first image of the entire movie is Lord Grade Presents. So the same year as Raise the Titanic, Lou, call me Lord because I'm fancy, Grade, produced this movie. Two Razzies in 1 year.
Yeah, John Barry did the music for, just the name the same thing, but John Barry did the music for Raise the Titanic. And there's a set, I thought it was like, wow, like the James Bond composer and Raise the Titanic composer does set design too.
Yeah,
But
it's not like if it was an actor, someone would have to change their name, but that was very weird. Yeah. So yeah, the story about Lord Grey in this movie is he saw an unfinished script for a science fiction movie. I guess because it was attached to Star Wars technically or whatever. So he picked it up, and he wasn't going to do anything with it. But he was on a plane with Farrah Fawcett, and Farrah Fawcett read the half-finished script and was so impressed she convinced Lord Grey to option the movie into a real movie. Talk about Farrah Fawcett in a second.
the script which got completely rewritten, like you said, right?
Yes. It's a little hazy on the timeline, but since it wasn't finished yet, I imagine there's still time for Martin because it was John Barry's idea. So at that point, it was probably John Barry's like pitch or something before Martin Amis tried to write it. Probably would have rather watched that movie, but yeah.
Which actually, because I know we're gonna get to the opening shot in a second, but overall, this movie kind of feels like a Star Wars ripoff in some ways.
Yes, the opening
And
shot is the most egregious example. Yes.
but it's more defensible that someone on Star Wars pitched the movie.
I mean, it's not. I mean, John Barry doesn't have entitlement to Star Wars over George Lucas, but
Yeah,
anyway,
John Barry's a piece of shit for trying to rip off my story.
I'm gonna make a movie called Sharon 4. It's gonna be much better. Uh,
Jar Jar Binks is more likable there.
what if there was a Gungan on Saturn 3? Alright, anyway, uh, we talked about this before, but not for the audience though. The score is by Elmer Bernstein, who for a while did every movie that came out. It felt like
Magnificent Seven to Cape Fear time-wise. There's probably stuff before and after,
I was
but
gonna say similar to Magnificent Seven. He's probably most famous for doing To Kill a Mockingbird, and then timeline-wise for this movie, there's no sense other than they're all hits, I guess. But Meatballs and Animal House,
yeah,
Saturn 3, baby.
and Airplane too.
Well, that was yeah, very similar. Might have been a little after. I don't know, but yeah,
Same year of release, but yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so he's good at comedies. Well,
there's everything.
he's good at doing comedy scores because he does comedy scores straight. Like I remember Stripes; it was very a heroic score, despite the fact it's about mud wrestling and stuff. But, yeah,
He did all sorts of genres, and it's great. I just think he could, very creative person.
yeah. So let's talk about the cast. This is the easiest cast to talk about because there's literally three people in it. If you don't count the weird robot, which becomes Harvey Keitel later on. But anyway, uh, firstly we have Farrah Fawcett as Alex, the female half of the hydroponics research couple. When this movie came out, she had just left Charlie's Angels. Technically, it ended at the exact same time the movie came out, but I think she was out of the show for at least a year, maybe two. So yeah. Anyway, my anecdote about it's not that much, but what she said she liked about the script when she read it was very intellectual. It was like a guy falls in love with a woman, and he's training a robot. So when he loves the woman, the robot loves the woman. So it sounded a little softer, a little less rushed slasher movie. So and then She said she didn't have any connection to the plot after the rewrite. It wasn't what she signed up for, but she did it anyway. And then you have Kirk Douglas. Why am I on Saturn 3? Kirk Douglas as Adam, the male half of the hydroponics research team. Um, so of course he's very famous and did like 100 movies, but at the time it makes sense for this movie because he was doing basically whatever he wanted. He was doing really weird like existential horror movies. He did a movie called The Chosen that's about like a prophecy about the end of the world.
Is that the
And
one with John Cassavetes in it?
yeah, it looks really good actually. And then he did The Fury with what's his name? Who's the director of Carrie?
De Palma.
Yeah, it's The Fury's like a ghost story or something. Also look cool. And then this exact same year, one of his most popular movies came out. Have you ever heard of The Final Countdown?
God, just thoughts of Europe.
Europe. Yeah, it's it sounds interesting. People like it, but I don't I don't it's a like an aircraft carrier in 1980 goes into a time warp and shows up at Pearl Harbor. That's all I know about it, but
Hmm.
it's interesting. Yeah, sounds better than this movie. And apparently, on top of getting John Barry fired, uh, Stanley Donen says that working with Kirk Douglas was the worst part of the movie. And honestly, it doesn't seem that shocking. And no one really rose to Kirk Douglas's defense with those accusations. Kind of seems like that's kind of how Kirk Douglas rolls.
He
Very
was an
proud.
asshole to Kubrick on Spartacus.
I guess he knows what he wants. He's very dominating. So yeah. And then finally we have Harvey Keitel as Captain Benson, a mentally unstable guy who works on the government space station thing and murders a guy so he can steal his shift slash ship and go to the hydroponic station and eventually try to basically I don't know sexually assault Alex.
He only wants to kidnap her, and it's more positive
Yeah,
than thinking of the old rape word.
yeah. Try to avoid those words, but whatever. Yeah. So kind of like all the other actors in this movie, it's very prolific. He was just basically just getting started. Not really though, because Mean Streets was like 74, Duelists was 78. So this is like prime Harvey Keitel in theory. But more Stanley Donen drama. He told Harvey Keitel that he did not play the character upper class or menacing enough and wanted to ADR all of his lines. And Harvey Keitel was like, I'm not coming back to this shitty movie to do ADR. So they hired a British actor called Roy Dotrice.
So in my notes, I wrote, "Oh, Harvey Keitel's a robot." Okay, and then like he's like, "I gotta." And then he's like, "I gotta build a robot." I'm like, "Wait, he's building a robot." I thought he was the robot. Just because not only did it sound not like Harvey Keitel, but it sounded echoey compared to everyone else. The ADR quality is really poor because it sounds so different than the Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, I have to assume that's like a forced slash weak ADR job. I can't imagine a sci-fi reason why he in particular would sound different, but I don't know. Yeah,
But you kind of sound echoey when he talked.
yeah, it sounded like there was a microphone in his spacesuit, like he was in space or something. So I have a fun anecdote about Roy Dotrice. So I'm wearing the shirt. It just happens to be again. But you remember the Tales from the Crypt movie from 1972, the first anthology one?
Joan Collins one where they were trapped in a cave.
Yeah. So you remember there was one story where it was like uh, this woman can make wishes, and her husband dies in a car accident, and she wishes for the husband to come back.
No, it's basically the monkey paw story because I think
Yeah.
there literally is a monkey paw to do wishes.
And she's like, I want my husband to come back. And then they realize he's embalmed. So he comes back just like screaming in pain.
Yeah.
So Roy Dotrice didn't play the dead guy. He played the guy at the funeral who's like, Don't do that. The, the relatively normal guy was Roy Dotrice. That was his main. He did a lot of theater, but that was his main movie role that I found. But yeah, yeah.
He played a character on the Beauty and the Beast TV show in the 80s.
Oh, I was wondering because I thought maybe he did a voice for the movie. I couldn't find it, so that's what it was. I thought it was a stage version. Yeah.
He played Amadeus's dad in Amadeus.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I don't even remember much about Amadeus's dad.
I haven't seen it, I just saw it, but whatever.
Oh, you haven't seen the movie yet? It's a good movie.
No, it's not about Amadeus, it's about Saturn 3.
All right, Amadeus 3. This time it's personal. Okay, let's talk about yeah, the film reader criteria, which is just more stuff about the movie. Okay, yeah, let's talk about the concept. Like kind of like other movies, it's kind of all over the place. Um, the trailer was super uneven because they used the cool shots of space that were like early CGI or hand drawn or whatever that looked really cool,
Mm,
and they cut to the hallway and it was like, whoa, because this movie basically takes place in two or three black hallways on a hydroponics space station. And then, oh yeah, the tagline, which is pretty funny for a movie that's bad like this one. It's like somewhere in space, something terrible is happening.
yeah, sure. Menacing, frightening, scary.
Somewhere in space, Stanley Donen is getting an argument with Kirk Douglas. Uh, Poster's cool. That when I first heard about this movie, that was the part that made me excited. Like, oh,
Yeah,
this is gonna be another black hole or Star Wars. I don't like his little. Sorry, go ahead.
just gonna say it's just way not to scale. In the poster, which is behind you, his head is basically touching the ceiling, and he's not that tall.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about the robot, other than that he's too big to function as a character who hangs out with other characters, is he has those dumb like cute eyes on his head. He looks like a Johnny Five from Short Circuit. But, yeah,
I wrote in my notes, he looks like Johnny Five on steroids.
you know, meet Johnny Five. Meet join baseball team. Right now. Okay. All right. Time for your first trivia break. Right. The theme of this trivia is pretty simple. The questions are about Saturn or the number three. First question. The Saturn car company was a subsidiary of what auto manufacturer?
I knew this at some point.
It's been a while since Saturn's existed.
What was it, Ford?
It's a GM, General Motors.
Mm,
In the movie Three Amigos, who provided the voice of the singing bush? Looking for an actor or performer or whatever, yeah.
wow, it's been a while since I saw that movie, and I don't remember this scene at all.
It was the prophecy of the singing bush and the invisible cowboy or something like that.
Whatever, right? Just gonna get this over there. Um, get over with. Say something. Well, I love it. That makes sense.
You were on the right track. I'm sure you worked on the soundtrack. It's Randy Newman. I thought that'd be easier, but I don't know. It's hard to do a question about that movie because, like,
It's
what's the name of
fine.
Martin Short's character?
I'm not looking for easy.
So let's talk about the characters. I do like this is a rare movie where we get to focus on three characters and it's not cluster clusterfuck like Raise the Titanic with 500 characters in it. Um, but I thought as we'll get into with the structure, this movie really has a problem making the characters distinct. Like Adam and Alex spend most of the movie kind of like as one unit, which prevents a lot of character exploration. And I thought Benson was kind of one note and got rushed through too quick. So
Speaking
it,
of Benson, because we're not going to talk about him a lot because he's barely in the movie, but the original guy who's going to go to the
yeah,
hydroponic, well, his death doesn't make sense to me. What he falls into knife wires or something and cuts like a watermelon.
my best guess is that there was some kind of this was not a well thought version of sci-fi in general, but it's like you have the spaceship and you have space, and you can't have space in the spaceship because that'll suck out the oxygen. So it was like a dividing screen for space.
But he is sucked into space because doesn't
Yeah, I don't know.
uh,
It must have been a.
Benson
Go ahead.
Benson opens a porthole or something, right? Like an emergency escape.
Yeah, my best guess is that's probably like some kind of like docking thing for the spaceship or a spaceship that's not there or something. That's just a guess though. It looked like a freaking what do you call that? Not a strainer, but like yeah, the cut the thing. Yeah, yeah.
Although with Bishop, then foreshadowing for movies in space that Bishop and aliens, but people named Bishop in horror movies in space. Uh, I did actually put in my notes, the decent philosophical question about, because I've thought, you think sometimes in life about, oh, my job would be so much easier if I had a clone of me or a, a helper that I could make or something. I don't know, something like that. But then this clone that you make to help you with your work or whatever could have the negative aspects of yourself too, and maybe kind
Yeah, but
of a
okay.
Frankenstein thing, I guess.
Well, at least Frankenstein was a normal guy for a while. Harvey Keitel's just like unilaterally insane. But
Yeah,
he murders a guy to go to the space station, and then he falls in love with Farrah Fawcett, who he knows is married or whatever you want to call it. This is a lot of red flags for personality.
right. I do think he wanted a robot that worked like normal,
That was
but
yeah.
but it relied on his brainwaves to work, and his brainwaves were too evil.
That's the weird thing. Sometimes this movie feels like it's like looping itself, but sometimes it goes too fast. Like he opens a thing and he's like, "I got this giant brain matter, and the brain matter is gonna form a robot." And it's like, you gotta take your time with these things. This is weird.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the dialogue. My note is I was as an isolated concept, like if I was telling a film production company about this movie, it was okay. Like it meandered a bit, but it fit how the plot was meandering, and dialogue was pretty snappy, not too plot heavy, and all three actors, although Harvey Keitel doesn't count, the other two actors were really good on line readings, so the dialogue was kind of pleasant. Like not good, but it didn't bother me that much. I like Kirk Douglas's reading of lines, and Farrah Fawcett too.
I guess the dialogue's fine. Whoever rewrote Martin Amis's script, the character stuff's fine. But I think the dialogue could have better emphasized, because when I watched the preview after that you showed me after the movie, I watched the movie. I didn't realize that they couldn't send messages out because of the eclipse. That they were in a communication dead zone as a result.
Yeah, they did say it, but the problem with this movie is I don't know if it was a budget thing or what, but it was just the three of them talking constantly. So they mentioned it, but it was kind of like in a vacuum because they didn't really show anything. But yeah, they did mention it, but yeah. Yeah, because do a big budget remake of Saturn 3, of course. But you cut to like a wide shot of like a dark shadow goes over the planet, and someone says on a space station, elsewhere, like, "Oh, we've lost Saturn. See you in January." something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised this movie cost a reported $10 million because I thought about that same thing. It could have, I thought the same shot you did, the darkness of an eclipse could have been like, because 2001 had shots like that of like planets moving around, and I mean, it's tough to compare any sci-fi movie to 2001, but something to show that uh, increase the it's not a word, but ominousness of
Mm-hmm.
the situation. Um,
No, I
would
agree.
have looked cool, but overall, it's just sum up dialogue. I don't think any of the dialogue is bad per se. Nothing. There's no line that I'm like, oh, that was so funny, bad. Uh, kind of like silly movies like Xanadu. I don't know if it's just the way it's directed or Harvey Keitel's voice. I don't know if it's the right term, but like dialogue kind of washes over you. Uh, It's probably not the right word, but and that you kind of it kind of blends together and you miss details overall.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's visually stagnant. There's not a lot of change. Like I mentioned, as we'll get into, big problem in the movie is that Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas are happy together, and you think something's going to happen to make them not want to be a couple, but they insist on being a couple until like the last 10 minutes of the movie when, spoiler alert, Kirk Douglas dies. So it's like the movie just sort of keeps going on this one track. So naturally, you're going to lose if the dialogue's acting like things are changing because it's like so much is the same. But yeah. Anyway, I think we covered that enough. Let's talk about the structure stuff. Woo! Yeah, we talked about the opening image. You get instead of the Star Destroyer going over the camera, you get the space station. I
Did
think
you
it's
like the satellite spiraling on the bottom?
no.
Did you
I thought
notice
the.
that?
I mean, I know it's one of those things where it's the era the movie was made, and I didn't like judge it against it, but the effects were really wonky
When
on the
that
space wide shots. But yeah,
ship is going over the camera, and it's very similar to the Star Destroyer at the beginning of New Hope.
right.
There's a satellite spinning, and it looks floppy like a tortilla or something. It was you
Right.
didn't notice the floppy tortilla satellite?
No, I was kind of distracted by trying to figure out what was going on because it was a white ship, so it's kind of like the lines got a little messed
I
up.
thought it was a black ship,
Black ship, whatever.
right?
Obviously,
Black or dark
I
white or
was just paying
something.
attention. I was just not paying attention, but it was a fine opening shot.
But
It
then
kind of it made it seem like it made the movie seem bigger than it was, which is when you have a relatively small budget, it's a good idea to sort of make things look big.
it's funny that you say you can't figure what's going on because it, I would describe the opening shots as kind of chaotic because then it's the Star Destroyer thing. Like, okay, it's a space movie, and then the scenes where they're preparing the little ship that Harvey Keitel ends up flying out of.
Yeah.
It's like extreme close up, like it kind of looked like it too. You know the famous "Video Killed the Radio Star" video,
Yeah.
kind of extreme close up of like that. It's very similar cinematography.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, it's just to save money on not having to do full
It's like
effect
clear
shots.
eggshells is how the ship is constructed.
Yeah, the world building is really weak, and they try to cover it with dialogue.
And then they show the decks of this Star Destroyer and it's a bunch of people in shadow.
Yeah, I don't
I was
know.
trying to figure what's going on, and then ultimately it's Harvey Keitel in a green spacesuit. I'm like, what is he, a bug? And then, 'cause it was so his spacesuit is so green, it looks insect-like.
Yeah, yeah. On my computer screen, I have a hard time sometimes seeing the colors because they look kind of more black to me. Green and black is not a good mix for a movie. This is movie shows, but yeah. Anyway,
I do have a nicer setup for you to watch these movies.
yeah, I can figure something out. But Need to get the money from this podcast. Okay. Anyway. Um. So interesting question. Okay, I'm gonna because normally I'd be like, who's the protagonist? And usually we always know. Because to me, the protagonist was ended up being and should have been Alex, because she's sort of torn between in her way between Harvey Keitel and Kirk Douglas. But the movie, for some reason, just insists that no, it's Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas together. It's just so weird. I don't think a modern movie would ever do that, where it's like the main character has no identity other than wanting to be with their lover all the time.
Yeah, the whoever ended up writing the final screenplay should have done a better job of making Captain Benson, Harvey Keitel, more appealing.
At least,
Because
at least for a while. Doesn't have to be all the way. But yeah, yeah.
the viewers know he's a murderer, and Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett do not know that. So that's a little bit of a what's the literary term for that? When
Oh well, that's a called
audience knows more than the characters.
Hitchcock. That's Hitchcock's definition of suspense is when the audience knows something and the audience does and the character doesn't. But yeah, yeah.
So it could be like a alluring leading man, and then Kirk Douglas worried about losing her to him, blah blah blah. I think a little more interesting, but his first dialogue with Farrah Fawcett is literally, "You have a good body. I want to sleep with you." And then she goes, "No, no, I'm with a man already." And she's like, "Come on Earth, we share women all the time." Such a creepazoid. And he doesn't
Yeah,
really.
it was weird because in a way the movie was trying to shortcut it to move the plot along faster, but then because the characters, I don't know, it just didn't work. It felt like it got stuck. But yeah. So yeah, the ordinary world of the characters. This gets really complicated because technically the ordinary world for Alex is that she works in a hydroponic station with Adam, but then they try to tack on the stuff that you don't see, which is that Earth is overpopulated and can't make food anymore. So they establish these hydroponic stations all over the solar system,
Mhm.
and so that's also part of the ordinary world. But Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett don't have a direct connection to that part. It's very weird, but I guess just in general, they work at this hydroponic station, which is all, which is not a very motivating thing for a plot. Like they like it there. It's weird.
Yes, they're very isolated, and they send food to Earth. That's I don't know. That's
But in a normal movie, you'd be like Farrah Fawcett, has a picture of Earth in her wallet, and she's like, I want to go there or something. There's nothing like that. She's happy to have a dog and a husband on the station. It seems like I don't know. Yeah.
she is. Yeah, in that way, she is kind of being gaslighted by Kirk Douglas, but the movie doesn't address that. And in fact, that and maybe it's why maybe that's what I guess we don't know for certain why Kirk Douglas got so mad at everyone, but maybe that was part of it was they wanted to make Kirk Douglas more complicated character that he was essentially had Farrah Fawcett kidnapped. And then maybe he pushed back and said, "I'm not. I'm always the hero. I have to play a hero."
That is speculation, but yeah, that's what the movie
I don't
is.
know, knowing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Another tricky question about structure because this movie is not structured correctly. What does the protagonist need to do to improve their life and get out of what they're in? Because, as we'll get to, the end of the movie phrases a problem, which is that, hey, not being on Earth sucks. I wish we were back on Earth, which makes sense for the ending. But then for three-quarters of the movie, she's willing and happy to stay on the hydroponic station with Kirk Douglas. So it's not really clear what the motivation is in the movie other than stay away from Harvey Keitel and his robot.
Right, it's kind of a bleak movie overall when you think about it, because obviously avoid getting killed by the robot is the main part of the movie. Uh, but I kind of wonder if you think they intended a sequel to this? Because
Uh, well, I would say this movie works very well as a contained thing because, it's just the hope of her going to Earth at the end. Spoiler alert, but because I can't imagine what a sequel would look like without Kirk Douglas and without Harvey Keitel's character.
what was that? The only linkage would be Farrah Fawcett, and then it would just be her, this bleak Earth that's been described to her, I guess, and what it's like.
Yeah, I don't think the studio had that in mind, but as a pitch or whatever, it's interesting because we don't know what Earth is actually like. They just generically say, "Oh, it's overcrowded and there's no agriculture." But I mean, that could take a lot of interesting forms. So I wouldn't mind watching that, but yeah.
Yeah, but in general, it's like my life's fine, and then like a lot of horror movies, a killer thing comes in the way and to ruin my life, and I need to survive.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the context of the, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess because it was famous actors, famous director, and three characters in a sort of closet drama, or whatever you want to call it, kind of theatrical, like a play. I kind of had more expectations of it becoming psychological and about Farrah Fawcett's liberation as a woman. I think that would have been a better movie, obviously, but I don't know if that's what Stanley Donen had in mind.
The only liberation is freedom from a killer robot with a bad brain hookup with murderous Harvey
Yeah.
Keitel.
The robot's kind of clumsy, like it doesn't move very well, and it falls over a lot. It's a mess. All right. Oh yeah. Time for the second trivia break. All right. Three or Saturn. Or Saturn or three, I guess. But according to Tony, Orlando, and Don, where should you knock three times if you want to see Tony, Orlando, and or Don?
Not three times. On the ceiling?
Yes. Twice on the pipe if the answer is no. They're very, very clear system.
Twice on Tony Orlando's pipe. Hey no.
What?
Twice on Tony Orlando's pipe. I shouldn't have
Oh wow.
a dumb joke.
Yeah. And we're canceled. All right. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, all right. Next question. What was the full name of Perry Saturn's submission finisher in World Championship Wrestling? It is a play on the planet Saturn.
Oh, well, you just gave it to me because I
Yeah,
was
well,
stumped
whatever.
because I only remember Death Valley Driver. But then, is it just the Rings of Saturn?
Yes, he sort of hooks the underarms and starts like moving around.
It's a different version of like the crippler crossface.
Okay.
I think kind of choke. He kind of ends up grabbing the chin too, kind of like the crippler crossface.
Yeah, they were saying well, for the audience, we watch wrestling podcasts, but they were saying it looks cool. I never thought it looked cool. Oh, that looked kind of lame, but yeah.
You do kind of contort the body to other guy's body to do it, but
I
yeah.
love the Death Valley Driver and the his more athletic suplexes and stuff, but yeah. All right, back to the movie. What event? This is an easy one. What event changes the protagonist's life and sucks him into the story? Literally, Captain Benson shows up and builds the murder robot, and the murder robot starts killing her, trying to kill him. Pretty cut and
Yeah, I
dry.
don't know. It's not a good point to bring this up, but I want to get this out of me because I'm thinking about it since it happened in the movie and well, until now. Killing the dog was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, in a better movie, it would have been a good way to heighten the horror, and the monster has whatever, but it just felt clumsy, and
At least,
the dog was too little too. It was
I was gonna
weird.
say is
Uh,
at least have it be like a Doberman or a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd, or it actually tries to fight the robot. Just little cute little dinky dog that gets chased by the robot and ripped to shreds in the garden.
yeah, the only positive thing I can say about the dog dying is that obviously Farrah Fawcett was upset, and Kirk Douglas did not treat it like it was unimportant or something. I mean, so at least it was treated appropriately, even if it was stupid. I mean, honestly, it might have been it might have been a good conflict point for Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas if Kirk Douglas was like, "Oh, it's just a it's just a dog. We'll make another synthetic dog later or something," and then they could that's when they get friction. But there we go again, trying to
Nope.
fix this movie, but it's not gonna happen. All right, another pretty clear one. What's the quote unquote fun and games? The part in the middle that the audience pays to see based on the poster, and yeah, you get to see this unwieldy giant robot that looks worse in the movie than it does on the poster, run around and try to kill everyone. And I wanted to point out because this came up in the Wikipedia article. John Barry said people were saying Saturn 3 was an Alien ripoff, and he's like, I thought of this idea way before Alien came out. After watching the movie, I'm kind of like, this seems like an Alien ripoff, but or at least in the in the action with the robot. But yeah,
Man, I guess I could see that it ties to Alien. I didn't think it was so much a ripoff because there's not that much of the alien chasing them in Alien. It just kind of shows
yeah,
up randomly,
it could be a
which
cheaper
actually works out
version.
better because
You know,
a lot of movies where you don't see the monster actually work out better because it's about the suspense of when's the monster going to show up again
well,
type
yeah,
of thing.
the power of the imagination is better than an indie filmmaker, like for example Friday the 13th. If they showed Betsy Palmer murdering everyone, that everyone would have laughed and not gone to see the movie.
But then 2 through 10, it's all about showing the killer. But anyways, uh, uh, yeah, I actually thought the robot looked cooler than you did. I guess I actually they just Johnny Fivehead was dumb. I guess because it can. I guess the idea to make it quote unquote scarier is that it can its eyes can rotate around its head so you can't hide from it.
No, yeah, it having eyes was very important because it was some sort of Freudian idea of it sort of synthesizes the lust from what's his name, Benson. So I mean, it makes sense to have eyes, but they just didn't look good. Nothing personal, just not great. So yeah, that was pretty clear. Uh, so then I guess this movie doesn't really have a transition step. So it doesn't, but what obstacle comes in the way to interrupt the fun and games or whatever, and they don't really uh, do that. I mean, the closest thing is the it's almost the climax, but I guess it makes sense. You can explain after I say what happened. You can explain what it was. But I don't understand. Something like Benson and the robot drugged both of them, and then they turned Adam into a robot, and they didn't turn Farrah Fawcett into a robot because Benson wants to fuck her. But what was the whole? They both woke up in their beds. That was really
Yeah, it
weird.
was more obvious what happened to Farrah Fawcett because she just straight fainted. But I assume they don't explain what happened. It's up to the viewer to guess. But maybe the robot just knocked out Kirk Douglas. I don't know.
So I guess that does break up the quote unquote fun and games because the idea is that Adam and despite all the bad stuff that's happening and almost murder, Adam and Alex can escape in theory because they can run away. But once Adam gets the robot thing in his neck, their relationship is pretty much doomed either way. Either Adam can work as a robot for Benson if that was the plan, or Adam can die, which is what they end up choosing. What was Benson going to do with Adam with those pinholes in his neck?
Uh, he does want to make a robot army, I think.
That was another thing that was kind of rushed and said out loud, but then ignored for a while because it's like robots are better than people or something like that, and then but then it just became a slasher movie instead. And it was, yeah. And then so yeah, what's the what's the motivating action or event the protagonist decides to overcome the obstacle and win. And Alex doesn't really decide anything. She's kind
No,
of in the same mode of wanting to run away or not be with the robot. But Adam decides to sacrifice himself with the grenade and blow up the both of them. So it kind of makes him seem like the protagonist, despite being dead and not part of the ending of the movie.
I think this idea of protagonist is that Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas are essentially protagonists together through everything.
Yeah. Which, as a film viewer, I reject because I find that annoying. But I guess that's fair. Yeah.
She finally gets she only gets individuality and literally kills himself. Kirk Douglas kills himself at the very, very end.
No. And that was a cool, just as a visual thing that because they knew they could push him into the nitrogen oxide, whatever it's called, and he'll freeze, but he'll just come out of it. So Kirk
Because they
Douglas,
tried that already, and
yeah. So Kirk Douglas grabs the grenade and does the whole thing. That was a cool action movie thing. Give the movie credit for one thing. Yes.
yes, I actually give the movie credit because the audience learns this because they did that before. They they pushed him in with a crane into the, but he's able to get out and because I actually thought I was watching the movie, I'm like, oh, they're gonna make they're gonna make it to the ship and fly away. That's the end of the movie. But he's able to get out. It shouldn't make any how he could get out so quick, but because I imagine there's no unless there's like a floor at the bottom of the liquid nitrogen, how is he able to climb out so quick from
Yeah.
being in the liquid nitrogen and get to the blow up ship button?
Yeah, and then another thing I liked about this movie has little moments. They're so buried, but because Kirk Douglas doesn't show her that he has the robot in his head or whatever, and he goes to her and he's like, "You got to leave without me," and she's like, "What do you mean? I'm not gonna leave without you." And I thought that was a good way of showing his willingness to sacrifice without, like look at the robot thing they did to me. I was like, so he's trying to protect her from knowing what happened to him. It was, decent acting thing, but yeah, yeah, really,
Hmm.
really going through the weeds trying to find good moments that I liked. Yeah. So yeah, the end of the movie. How was the character different from the end at the beginning? Like I said, it's actually very clear and not really I guess clever, but whatever. You know, she was working at this hydroponic station, but now she's on her own, going to Earth. So like that was actually very well layered to be like everything about her has changed now. It was kind of weird because she didn't want to do most of it until Kirk Douglas was dead, so it didn't really feel like a motivated positive change. But they kind of make it one.
Something we didn't cover in the movie, and I don't know why they included it. I guess because it's the future is so different. And I guess the idea, because like as kids, we heard that, oh, in the future, all your meals will be in pill form and stuff like that. All this stuff with pills in this stupid movie.
Oh yeah, they did that whole thing where because Captain Benson is like, you want to take this blue Quaalude or whatever it was, and Farrah Fawcett's like, that seems weird, and then she and Kirk Douglas take it in halves, and that didn't really see. I mean, that didn't really seem to go anywhere.
And he's taking a bunch of pills, and then she gets off her pill at the end and declines. And I could have done without that.
Well, in a better movie, it would have clarified that Kirk Douglas is more of a system guy. He takes the pills to get through the day. He's a little more drugged up. Farrah Fawcett is pure and has like naturalistic motivations. She can. It's almost like she can save Earth by being more naturalistic. But the movie did not do that at all. So
I do appreciate because we're talking about the ending here that it was a great idea, especially because the movie was getting a little much, hard to endure, but to have the movie end ambiguously with you have no idea what she's gonna see on Earth, what's gonna happen to her, yada yada.
Yeah, that felt like a much better movie than most of the movie we watched. And to that point, closing image of the movie, uh, yeah, she's on the boat, and yeah, yeah. We'll talk a little more about the closing image after another trivia break. Saturn or three. When Perry Saturn got brain damage and fell in love with
Oh
a
my
mop.
God.
Okay,
I guess this is,
let me finish the question for the clean audio. When Perry Saturn got brain damage and fell in love with a mop, as you do, this new relationship with his girlfriend, aka Moppy, what a clever name, effectively ruined his relationship with what manager slash very part-time female wrestler slash sexy diva lady?
is this Terry?
Yes, Terry, real name Terry Reynolds. Yes. Next question. What is the first name of the author of The Three Body Problem? The same first name as the Kung Fu protagonist of the Mortal Kombat franchise.
Kung?
So your answer for the first name?
Isn't it Kung Lao?
Kung Lao is one of the other characters. It's Liu Liu Chixin or Liu King, or the two names I referred to.
Chang, King, Zhang, maybe? I don't know.
What?
It's Xing, right?
No, the author's name is Cixin.
Oh. What's Mortal Kombat character's name?
King. King and Kodos. Kang. Moving right along. So I was kind of referring to this in the last question. I probably shouldn't split up these image questions, but anyway, the do the images match? They actually match very well because the beginning of the movie is the space station of the Earth Authority that manages the space stations, and the last image is the spaceship that's going back to Earth. So it's literally opening on Saturn, closing on Earth, both physically and logistically and character wise. So very effective. Best part
Yep.
of the movie, probably.
The Simpsons are going to Saturn. The Simpsons are going to Earth.
Yeah. Just gonna cut that. I'm live editing my outline, which is great. Right. Okay. Oh yeah, let's general rating for structure. So yeah, that's my big problem with this movie. I feel like subliminally, as anyone who watches movies and goes sees this movie, the structure really drags the movie down because I've never seen a movie where two characters as one protagonist works, especially when they're like happy where they are and it's not clear what the conflict is, and then uh, the motivations of the Captain Benson were a little like loose, and he should have achieved his goals earlier. And the movie tried to backload a lot of the motivation and dialogue and world building and stuff, and it's just a mess. It ruined the whole movie. Just the structure.
Yeah, things I like about this movie are more the peripherals because yeah, the structure itself is kind of weirdly works its way into a slasher escaping the invincible robot, whatever. I guess it's still slasher. Movie. Uh, yeah, it starts off trying to figure out. It takes a long time to figure out what's happening, and then it movie becomes very simple. So the flow is not consistent.
Yeah, it tried to be like a slick action movie and a high concept Blade Runner esque thing as well. Didn't really work. Yeah. And then speaking of slick, talk about the pacing. The pacing didn't bother me that much. I was kind of surprised because it was very dialogue heavy and kind of one note, but the sets and the moving around and stuff were done fairly well. So not the worst I ever saw. So it's fine.
What's the question?
How's the pace? If you tell someone about the pace of this movie.
Disjointed like the whole movie. Uh, I don't know. It takes too long to get to the robot chasing the humans, which actually is pretty well done overall, I guess. Um,
Yeah, I mean it hits the basic notes of the slasher parts. I I thought it was a little confusing because it felt like they only had enough money for like one big hallway set that they kind of rotated around. So it got a little like spatially disorientated where the bedrooms were and where the lab was and stuff. So that part was a little disjointed, but the as a basic action movie, it was serviceable. So yeah, talk about marketability, which this podcast turns to. How likely would you be to tell someone to watch this movie? It's pretty low, but something like Red Letter Media or if your friends have a bad movie night, please invite me. But anyway, if your friends have a bad movie night and you have never seen this movie before, like it's fine. It's a B science fiction movie. Have fun, watch it. I can't say it's no recommendation. It's not good, but it's fine.
yeah, there's so much better entries in the sci-fi genre. I mean, and it has a great Elmer. I like the Elmer Bernstein score in this, but 50 billion Elmer Bernstein scores are movies are better than this. And then I actually like the way the robot looks and how the hallway space station looks.
There's a lot
I
of good
think
robot
that
movies too. But yeah, yeah, what you're saying. Yeah.
the dark, the darkness of the walls and everything actually looks really cool. Um, but there's better movies that have hallways like that and stuff. Yeah, yeah, it's only really candidate for a so bad it's good movie night, really, for in terms of recommendation.
And if you're like, what's the worst Stanley Donen movie you can think of? It's like, there you go. And Kirk Douglas too. And all of them. Yeah.
Kill more someone that kill the dog because it's
Yeah. I mean, movies. It's a cheap way to get heat in a horror movie is killing animals. So, yeah. All right, time for another trivia break.
so soon.
Yes, soon. Yes. In Super Mario Bros. 3, what is the official name of the avatar that Mario turns into when he grabs a red leaf? Basically, a Japanese raccoon.
Damn it.
It's pretty hard.
Do have bar trivia tomorrow. It's good to know this for that in case it comes up. But Takogi
You're phonetically so close. The Tanuki.
Tanuki. How do you spell that?
Tanooki.
Tanuki.
Okay. Last Perry Saturn question, I swear. Okay. So, Perry Saturn uh, lost his mop, or the mop got broken. So he took the bristles and the head of the mop, for lack of a better term, and put it on a wooden log. What wrestler fed the wood mop lady into a wood chipper that hilariously failed to turn on while on camera?
Did Raven do it?
What about me? What about Raven? Yes.
That was in WWE, correct?
Yes.
It's kind of like a kayfabe revenge for him ruining Raven's flock in WCW.
I think in WWE kayfabe it was because Raven was with Terry, I think. I don't know. God, something about that. Okay, let's talk about the Razzie nominations because there was no Oscar
Dun,
nominations.
dun, 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 dun.
So nominated for Worst Picture and lost to Can't Stop the Music. Can't Stop the Music is probably worse. I do think this movie deserved the nomination for the behind the scenes problems and the mediocre movie. It's a fine nomination.
There's some list of like movies that should have been nominated for Razzies but didn't in 1980. Let's take a look because I think it's on the cusp of having enough positive qualities to not get nominated, but it's not so good. I'm like, oh my God, you can't nominate this for Worst Picture, so it's fine.
Yeah, and then Kirk Douglas was nominated for Worst Actor, who lost to Neil Diamond in The Jazz Singer, which should tell you the level of acting being compared here. I kind of understand that Kirk Douglas is a jerk in real life and he's famous. That's why he got nominated. But Kirk Douglas is an amazing actor. Fuck you, Razzies. Fuck you.
I think the lovey-dovey having sex with Farrah Fawcett in the beginning of the movie is not his best work. I do think I did really like his working with Farrah Fawcett to survive the robot uh going under the tunnel and doing all that stuff was actually well done. So I agree. He shouldn't have been nominated.
I mean, Farrah Fawcett was nominated for Worst Actress, and I actually was surprised how decent she was. I mean, good she was in this movie. I don't know much about her acting chops, but she was good. So fuck you, Razzies. Fuck you.
I don't think any actress could have done much with what was written. And I think I don't I would like to have a drink or dinner with the guy who made the Razzies. One of the things I'm gonna ask him is, did you just dunk on her because she's pretty? Because I don't know. Because like the hot model becomes an actress, therefore she's terrible.
Well, I think we talked about this effect before that you have to be famous enough that the public at large knows who you're nominating for a Razzie. So that's part of it. But yeah. All right. We're almost there. So, Marcus, you can do a short review and score out of 10, and then I'm not keeping track or anything, but the how this ranks in the pantheon, positive or negative, of 1980 Razzie movies.
Uh, Positives, fun set design. John Barry can do good work, as shown by Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. Although who knows how much of the Empire before he died. But and I like Elmer Bernstein's space horror score. Good work as always from him. It has actors I like in it, but they don't do very good. The script is terrible, and you could do better in terms of space horror. Uh, yeah, it's just. But shows how bad I think the Razzie nominees are. I think it's in the upper half of the 1980 Worst Picture nominees, but not good as. Actually, at one point, while I was watching, I thought it might be better than Xanadu, but I think overall it's a little worse. Xanadu is the best, and the formula remains the worst.
All right. Uh, Per usual, I mostly agree with what Roger Ebert said about this movie. He said, for a science fiction movie, it has a shockingly low level of intelligence. That's how I felt. I felt I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, a grown up watching. I was gonna say a child, but just a dumber grown up meandering and rambling for an hour and a half or whatever. It was a really sloppy world building sci-fi that doesn't really hold up. But they didn't want to delve into too much, and the love story between Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas, you want to call it that, or and just Captain Benson as a villain. Part of that's the overdub, which is still part of the movie on screen, but sloppy motivations, not a compelling or memorable villain. It's just not well put together movie. So, uh, yeah, I think the set, like you said, the set design, the score, some of the matte shots or effect shots of space are enough to elevate it above the bottom, which I'd probably say is still the formula. I'm torn on the top because I like cruising because it's so weird. Xanadu is a better movie, but so they're kind of tied for top ish. But I put it lower in the ranking, but not bottom. All right, before we get to the next week's movie, let's do a final trivia break. No more Perry Saturn
It,
questions. Technically, all right. First question. In the Roman pantheon, the god Saturn oversees agriculture and time. What is the Greek name for this god, which also happens to be the last name of Perry Saturn's tag team partner in the ECW tandem known as the Eliminators?
needs more Kronos.
Yes, Cronus, Cronus. The last name is Kronus. Yeah.
Oh, I said Kronos. Whatever. I could be wrong on Jeopardy or whatever.
You know, I don't have a scorekeeper, so yeah, you're fine. And then, what Hall of Famer that played for the Minnesota Twins had the number 3 on his jersey?
Yeah, what was that Puckett's number?
No, it was Harmon Killebrew's number.
I figured you went more old school. Yeah, old school son of a gun.
Well, I had to do something with number 3, so I couldn't. Yeah, although could have done Babe Ruth, I guess. But yeah. All right, real quick. Oh, not real quick. Guess next week's movie, which by the way is the last. I believe that's right. Yes, the last Best Picture nominee. There's more obscure nominees to go through, but this is the last Worst Picture nominee for the first Razzies. So kind of like Raise the Titanic. It's not famous, so I'll give you a big clue and then a little clue at the end. Okay. First
Hmm.
clue. Like The Godfather, it has cinematography by Gordon Willis and stars Talia Shire. Unlike The Godfather, it's a psychological thriller that's also directed by Gordon Willis and with score by Ennio Morricone.
Holy moly. Running away.
Here's your second clue, and hopefully final clue. 95, 98, 2000, XP, Vista.
Windows?
Yes, the psychological thriller Windows, which, spoiler alert, has been decried as being homophobic because it involves an evil lesbian. Next week on Twin Bill. Book me on your shows, or let's be best friends and hang out, maybe. I don't know.